is that the next 4 years is not your time to migrate illegally to the U.S. The ICE, the Immigration Security Agency, are waiting for you at the borders to deport you or send you to Guantanamo Bay. So better bear with us and stay back in the country for the next 4 years. But let me also say that what Trump is doing now is what he promised, and he spoke about it. So nothing has taken us by surprise. He wants to protect Americans from the dangers that illegal immigration poses. You may agree, you may not agree with him, but the point is that the first duty of a government or a president is to protect the citizens of that country, not the immigrants, not outsiders. So he has assessed that illegal immigrants come down to U.S. and become very violent, kill people. Not all of them, of course. Many of them are good, working in the farms, working in the stores. But a few of them are bad apples, and a few bad apples usually spoil a lot in the basket. So Trump wants to get these people out. There are very good Nigerians, many of them who might have migrated there illegally. I'm sorry that they will be caught up in the web. They can just come back home and help us rebuild the country, which we have been doing in the last 60 years. I have been here building this country with other compatriots.
Okay, all right. I mean, very good hoping. Madam Baba, what's your own take on that issue?
Well, Donald Trump, we are already experiencing Trump 2.0. Permit me to expand the immigration conversation to also cover the birth, citizenship, immigration, which is also affected. People like that are also affected. So let us also understand that it is not just about illegal immigrants, actually. It's a whole, migration policy that Trump came with, which also has covered the birth, citizenship, birthright citizenship provision, which has been there for long. Ironically, President Donald Trump is a sire, second-generation American, whose grandfather emigrated from Germany, and in the late 1800s. And if you ask me, the circumstances of the first immigration to U.S. by the grandfather of Donald Trump and his subsequent return to Germany, and how he was able to sneak out of Germany to come back to America, could be tagged whether legal or illegal. The point here is America was built with the sweat and blood of immigrants. And the definition, defining illegal immigrants in this context is also contextual, Prof. Because a lot of people are providing critical service, to the American people for many years. I am not promoting illegal immigration, but we all know the far right wing, philosophy of MAGA, make America great strategy is premised on a right wing, more or less right-wing philosophy of President Donald Trump to quote-unquote get rid of America of all illegal aliens, whereas ironically 60% of the people that are driving the economy of the United States of America at one point or the other, first generation, second generation, third or fourth generation, happen to come into America through one means of migration or the other, and including the birthright citizenship, which is now an issue. So I think it is 4 years of Trump too. Now, this will most likely redefine the politics of America. My call out to Africans and those that are engaging in illegal immigration is stay away from that. Try to follow through the process. But importantly, we should also redirect our success on our leadership, Prof, because that is the part of the problem. The failure of leadership in Africa is what is making most of these people to be desperate. Nobody will go out of his own comfort zone to go and become, quote unquote, a rodent in another country that are being chased out. But we can have that conversation later.
All right.
So guys, according to this headline, it says illegal US-based Nigerians abandon work, staying indoors to avoid Trump's deportation. So guys, there is fear everywhere. People are really going through a lot at this moment, because they are trying to stay away from the authorities, picking them up from wherever and taking them to the deportation center. So people are now even trying to stay away from work, possibly stay away from school, or anything that makes you to be on the street. so that you are not picked up. When you also look at it, some people are like, where am I going back to? To Nigeria. People don't believe anything good can come out of coming back to Nigeria. So they are just taking this risk of staying indoors to avoid those who are responsible for this deportation from picking them up. But the question remains, how long are they going to be hiding? How long are they going to be staying indoors? This is coming at a time when Trump's pick for FBI director made a very sensitive, comment when he was being drilled. Look at what he said. He said, Trump's FBI director pick says U.S. SEAL Team 6 rescued American hostages from northern Nigeria bandits within 60 seconds. They are still remembering what Trump did in his first tenure in Nigeria, how these people came and picked Americans that were held by bandits. So the whole thing is that for Nigeria, they look at us as if, as in the banditry is everywhere and everybody has got a part in that. But that is not the case. So guys, it appears now that Trump is the president, people should just avoid going to the US, especially if you don't have the visa that will take you there. I mean, the legitimate way of going there. And if you get there and your visa gets expired, it's just better you leave, because Trump is not smiling this time. We just hope that Nigeria will one day become a home where everybody will be desirous of returning home.
But let me just quickly clarify something that a court in US, I think late last week, has struck out the executive order banning birthright citizenship.
Well, so is that put like an injunction?
Injunction. So it can't stand. It is a constitutional matter. It's there in the constitution.
Right.
And you cannot amend the constitution by executive order. And that's what the court says.
Right. In fact, just to follow up on that, the judge that, and I think the judge was in Washington, D.C., if I'm right, actually a judge that was appointed by Ronald Reagan.
Correct.
Is also a Republican, did say that he couldn't believe that a lawyer, in his comment, I couldn't believe that a lawyer can even argue that an executive order can superimpose on a constitution. So the comments of the judge, seems as if the matter has been
I think
decided.
It's clear.
But at least he has said that, look, we're going to set a date for the airing of but he did put an injunction that that particular executive order should be suspended. So that, we're going to see what happens. But there's another area in which it affects Nigerians. So it will seem that Nigeria is going to be losing about $1 billion in total grants and aids that normally comes from the US in this freeze of American grants abroad that the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, put in place the moment that it was sworn in. And one of the areas where that will affect us, is in the AIDS or provision of HIV drugs. And there's been quite a bit of the conversation on social media and all over the place, how that is going to really affect Nigerians and some of our own medical, but even PEPFAR, some of the things that have been in place since George W. Bush to try to support health issues around the world, especially in Africa. Funding for that is going to stop. I know that the U.S. government normally gives about $100 million directly to Nigerian government, but when you add everything together that are given to other agencies that are in Nigeria, it comes to close to about $1 billion.
Yes.
Now, how do you guys think this is going to pan out? Let's start with Eti.
My concern is on the health issues because President Bush put in place a plan in which drugs for HIV and AIDS are subsidized and sent to us and other African countries. And now those drugs are either going to be too expensive or unavailable. And that's where my focus is. What should Nigerian governments do to ameliorate the effects of this ban? My thinking is that the government should quickly get in touch with the manufacturers of those antiretroviral drugs,
right,
and provide funding, direct funding to the manufacturers and bring these medicines to the country. We should quickly treat this as an emergency case because we have the AIDS penetration in this country was fairly high, up to 5% at the time, driven down to I think 4.5%.
One of the highest in the world.
Yes, one of the highest in the world. So right now I think it's between 4.5, and we should not allow HIV/AIDS pandemic to rise again. That should be the focus of the Minister of Health and the federal government.
Okay, thank you. Madam Baba.
The entire foreign policy strategy of Nigeria should change, and indeed for Africa. In direct response to that, Prof, the response to Trump with regards to AIDS, in my humble opinion, should be a continental reply, if that is possible. Because
from AU?
From AU, if that is possible. Yeah. And I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Trump is a transactional leader. Trump is operational. He, with all due respect to Trump, doesn't have that foresight. Africa remains the hot pot of the raw material that drives the world. Africa remains the hot pot of human capital for the world. The earlier we start behaving that, because we believe that and act that way on the table of conversations around the world, the earlier we start getting what you call for Trump, the better deal. Coming to Nigeria, for example, for the quick wins,
right,
is first of all to go back into our strategic reserves, to make quickly in our budget. Because I was saying in another forum that, you know, there's need to tweak our budget, whether in terms of the economy, in terms of the variables because of Trump's policies. And now this has come. The palliative provision, Mr. President has provided over 500 billion in palliatives last year to states. Now, within the framework of those provisions, immediately, as a matter of national priority, to take out a percentage of that money for what? Not just for HIV and AIDS, for all communicable disease, to provide that intervention and put in the queue ahead of time for production, because we have supply chain issues for producing this particular medication. That is at the national level. Beyond that, to understand that there is a wave of right-wing nationalistic tendencies across Europe, not just America. And for African leaders to smell the coffee, that this issue of going cap in hand to beg for aid to the extent that the aids are not coming and we are scratching our head and picking our noses is a reality. And that leadership should change. The paradigm of leadership should change.
Completely.
You should take care of your own. You campaigned and swore to uphold a constitution and provide security and well-being of your people. And then you carry agbada or suit, whether it is from Central Africa or West Africa, and be rushing up and down to America. And to that extent, I agree with Trump. Face inwards, build your capacities, take care of your own. That is what Trump is doing, albeit a bit on the too far right side. But you can't blame him, because we have the resources here. So we can leverage that and say, Trump, we hear you loud and clear. But the lithium that Elon Musk is looking for, we are not going to give it. Yes. So we need to have you see what I'm talking about, the strategic positioning. And at the AU level, to sit down and get our acts together and come and sit down and say, hey, whether it is a military dictator or a Democrat, whatever, to say we have a continental problem. This guy in America will not take us serious until we pull his hand and show him the resources and show him what we have to offer to the world, not just to him. And that if he doesn't take it, China is already taking, others are taking, and I can tell you, Trump will reverse it. You know why? Trump is a realist to an extent. Within 48 hours, after all the grammar is blowing about tariffs, he turned around and started throwing an olive branch to China, being the first person to call Xi Jinping, start moving from what I call aggressive narrative to conciliatory narrative, scaling down the tariff to 10% from 50%. Right. And now with DeepSeek coming out, say, we need to have a conversation, is a wake-up call for us. So Trump will face reality if we put our acts together. Necessity is the mother of invention. Crucial leadership for Africa going forward is what is key. Because like I said in my column, whoever becomes the president of America as a matter of policy, as far as I'm concerned, has no business with Africa except for face value.
So my question to you is that, why is it so difficult to have an ambassador? I know you guys don't speak for government, but speak to this issue.
My sense is that this administration does not take foreign policy seriously. This president was just a few weeks old in office in 2023 when he became ECOWAS chairman, because that's when the slot fell on Nigeria. And he didn't have foreign minister by then. He had no advisor on foreign affairs. And yet he went to ECOWAS and declared war on the 3 countries that broke away from ECOWAS. No, that had military regimes, military coup. He just went and threatened war without thinking through anything. Who does that? And today, he's the first Nigerian president presiding over the breakup of ECOWAS. And ECOWAS is celebrating 50 years this year. A very embarrassing thing. He is not well advised on the importance of foreign affairs. Now, coming to you, I'm surprised that a nation of this standing does not have ambassadors 2 years after he took over. Yeah. Who advises him?
It's going to be 2 years in May.
Who advises him? And now we have Trump rampaging across the world. Who is giving him advice on our relationship with the world, with Washington? I think the president, is he trying to save money? How much does an ambassador spend?
I mean, it's
very minimal.
That's the kind of feedback that you get that, when the president saw the budget, he said that it's a lot of money. But I think
let the president reduce the budget within the presidency. How many cars have been bought since he came into office? We don't need a lot of those cars. How many planes? And now we are hearing that new residences are going to be renovated in Lagos for vice president and president. I didn't even know that they stay in Lagos too.
Yeah, there is. There are official residences for both the president and the vice president.
In Lagos?
Oh, yes. I mean, being a former capital of the country. But good point, that team. Yeah, madam, what's your take?
Well, there is a nexus between foreign policy, economy, national security. Now, why do countries like the United States of America, Saudi Arabia, Russia, UK, and even China place premium value on foreign policy to drive their national strategy, national development strategy? You need foreign policy to maintain and build, expand your alliances. You need foreign policy to leverage, to effectively manage your foreign direct investment. You need foreign policy to align with global best practices. You need foreign policy to be active, whether it is in the United Nations, like we're looking for the security position and all that. That being said, I don't want to second guess Mr. President, but I will use this opportunity to humbly, with profound respect, speak to Mr. President, to remind what he already knows as a strategist. Foreign policy should be the fulcrum of economic recovery without losing sight of our domestic policy. It should be a linchpin strategy because we still need the money from outside the country to build. We need equipment and we need to activate our raw materials. But beyond that, geopolitics and other things like you mentioned now are playing out. I will expect or I will advise, without prejudice to what is inside that we don't know, why not have appointment of ambassadors in batches? Because it's taking time. You can now prioritize, for example, United States, the United Kingdom, France. You take critical 20 or 15 and deploy. Now that will send a signal with regards to how serious you take foreign policy. For example, I was earlier talking about how we position and we hedge, for production and collection of these vaccines, for example, for the AIDS that are stopping, and how do we position going forward. So if you have an ambassador there, immediately he would have gone to sort, even if it is Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, to start engaging in that regard. For example, I tell you what, 2 weeks before the swearing in of Donald Trump, as an example, as bad as it is in Sudan, the ambassador of Sudan to the United Nations on the sidelines of meetings was saying that they have packaged a deal to speak with Trump to come and intervene on the Sudan crisis. You see the importance of foreign policy, like you rightly said. And if you don't have an ambassador to speak for you, the Mr. President has so many on his table. And when I see him, I see a man that is holding so many baggages that he doesn't need to carry. He speaks as an ambassador. He does so many things that other people should do. So why not deploy in batches? In priority, due to the importance of our foreign relations, And it also says something about all the time our president is coming without an ambassador. Because this is an international protocol. It has a face-losing, value. Even for the Far East, if you look at the culture of the Japanese and the Chinese and the Arabs, sometimes it gives you that packaging for you to say you have an ambassador that speaks for you, and if there's an issue, you become the last man standing. But if you go first, then there's no last line charge. So this is very crucial for us to have ambassadors, even if it is in batches, but more importantly, as a reflection of how important we place our foreign policy in our national strategy, we should upgrade it, and we should also expand it in terms of policy coherence for us to be sure-footed and for us to have more respect in the committee evaluation with a better bargaining power.
Okay, excellent. So I'll just put in a chip and then we go to the next thing. I think that the president should consider urgently, more than ever before, the issue of ambassadors. Whatever the problem may be, it's no longer tenable that those guys are not there. And on the issue of ECOWAS, I want to say that, it was a difficult decision, but we must commend him for standing for democracy.
I agree.
Of course, maybe they didn't manage, the sanctions and what they said, but at least they said that, look, in West Africa, we stand for democracy. Let's go to local issues. I want to talk about 2027. Okay, so what are you guys picking up? There's a lot of chatter. Peter Obi is saying that, hey, no, I don't want to be, we don't need coalition just for power grab, which I think is good. And then they misquoted him and then came back and said, no, coalition is good, but not for this. And of course, you have Atiku Abubakar talking about the fact that, the courts are getting too much in the whole process, trying to also be the face for deepening our democracy. A lot of things are happening. People are saying that, we're going to have a coalition to defeat the incumbent. I just want to make it very broad. You guys take it wherever you want to go. Let's start with Eti.
I think Peter Obi and Atiku Abubakar have realized that they can't, at this time, merge their two parties and form one, just as APC did. They have thought about it, they have tried to work towards it, but too many factors came in and they have abandoned that idea. And they then they started thinking about alliance in which the two parties remain independent, existing, but one person will step down for the other. Of course, the man in Kano, Kokwanso, said he has PhD. He can't.
Did he actually say that?
Oh yes, he said that in the last season that he has.
That because he has a PhD
in engineering, and he's been a senator, he's been governor, he's been in the house. He can't step down for anybody. Peter Obi, least of all. Of course, nobody will think that Atiku Abubakar would step down for Peter Obi. So alliance is not working. That is why they are preparing our minds now to another round of all the 3 or 4 or 5 of them contesting all over again on their respective parties. But Peter Obi has a peculiar problem. His platform, Labour Party, is facing serious crisis. I don't even think they want him in the party. So where will he go to? SDP is wooing him. Is he going to go to SDP, take another ticket nomination and run on that platform? 2027 is beginning to get close, smell. We are seeing the flavor of re-election turbulence. So far, I must commend President Tinubu for handling the politics of his presidency very well. He looks as if he's not even interested in second term. He's focused on his reforms, and he's not even backing off for political reasons. At this point, first term president begins to say, okay, and they begins to back off, they begins to compromise. This president is not. He's focused on praising his VAT reforms and tax reforms through, as if he's not interested. I think it's because he knows Nigerian politics very well, that when the time comes, he will do what Nigerians always want and get his second term.
Interesting. Thank you, Eti. Mala.
From what I can see, having been a member of an opposition party and the leading party, of course, I left politics in 2005 to pursue my professional career. Now, moving on today, all our political mentors and colleagues from 1998 to date are all in all the political parties. Whether it is Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, whether it is, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, whether it is others that are Labour Party or Alhaji Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso have all spread out. And that tells you the kind of politics in Nigeria. The politics of ideology is still a work in progress. And now to come to that question, it is highly likely, or it is highly unlikely, unless something disruptive is done on the part of the opposition.
Right.
The truth is, it is most likely President Tinubu is going to have what they call in football walkover to 2027. Because it's a joke what is going on in the opposition, to be honest. And I say with all sense of responsibility, I'm disappointed at the kind of leadership that is provided at the party level. I'm disappointed at the kind of engagement that is happening across party. You see selfishness, you see, parochialism, and then the pretext of nationalism or patriotism is not reflecting in the actions. And I've said it many times, whether it is with due respect, His Excellency Peter Obi, or His Excellency Atiku Abubakar, or His Excellency Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso, all of them for whom I have profound respect for, cannot lead any country if you cannot manage a political party. Period. So the spectacle in PDP yesterday, does that look like a party that can upstage an APC even at state level? So the truth is, if these people really mean well for Nigeria, the earlier they start smelling the coffee to recognize that united they stand, and they divided, they fragment their votes, and President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is going to have easy and close to win. And this narrative also, which to my mind is laughable, because if you continue deceiving yourself and say it is APC that is causing problem in your party, then you are saying you don't have the capacity, the political sagacity, the political acumen, the fluidity to hold your structure as a party,
right,
and hold your people and do sometimes even the politics of give and take. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu twice had to step down his presidential ambition for the long game. That is strategy. With all due respect to Atiku Abubakar, every time he doesn't get it, then everything has to stop. And we saw also Peter Obi moving in that direction. We must understand our strengths and our weaknesses for us to also harness to achieve to take over the opportunities. We have a political colossus in the person of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in charge. We can talk and wish him away, we can lament and complain, but unless they put their heads together, like it happened in 2015, because it's a doable. It is still the APC, it is still the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and co that did it. They can do it if they put their personal sentiments aside and look at Nigeria, as a project, a reality. And to learn from that, I will not support power going back to the north. Let it be clear. We agreed for north-south, shift of power in the interest of unity, in the interest of equity and justice. Right. Let us work with that template so that the opposition will start putting a robust counter going forward. I'm saying this without prejudice to their constitutional right, to aspire for public office. But I'm saying they are all in their right elder statement. Whether you have a PhD or you have a secondary school certificate, from 1960 to date, 65% of people that took Nigeria to where it is today actually had school certs. So for me, while I have regard for that because of the times now, I think the issues are about character. This issue is about content. It's issue about what do you have for Nigeria, and they should come together. Only then will there be hope to even put APC on their toes to deliver what they promised. That is why the APC is having it easy.
Exactly. One or two things, and then we conclude.
Yeah.
The issue of lack of opposition, which is a very damaging problem. Because how do you have a democracy, multi-party democracy, and there are no opposition? The way they are behaving. Somebody said that they didn't have an experience. I think it was the former deputy chairman of the party, PDP, that said that, these folks, don't really have an experience, doing opposition politics. They came in 1999 and they were there all the way to 2015. No experience about opposition. So that is a problem. But the other thing, and this is where I want you guys to come in, of course, you can also make a comment on that, is you already raised the point, Malam. Why is it difficult for somebody of the stature of Atiku Abubakar to understand that Nigerians have made a national consensus on rotational presidency? I mean, there are very few things that we have a consensus on. We have a consensus, in my view, that, hey, we don't want military anymore.
Yes.
And then we have a consensus on, look, this presidency thing, let it be from the north to the south. You know, North has had 8 years recently with President Buhari, and it is the turn of the South. Even if you want to take it away from Mr. Tinubu, which I can't see the plan. You know, there's nothing reasonable on the ground that suggests that. But even if you want to, it must still remain in the South. I'll start with you, Eti. Why is that difficult for Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, who has the capacity to bring the national following? If you look at his political family, he has everybody from everywhere. Is it just because of his ambition that he doesn't understand what it takes ultimately to be a statesman and understand this national consensus?
Yes, please. His ambition has beclouded his sense of judgment in this matter, I'm afraid. And it's such a big pity because he's a very intelligent man, very intelligent, very cosmopolitan, very smart, very wealthy, very politically savvy, very connected. But in this matter, he has allowed his ambition, his entitlement mentality, and his personal and self-interest to becloud him, his sense of judgment on this matter. It's a big problem. Some years ago, there were reports that some marabouts told Atiku that no matter what, he will be president of this country. I don't know if he still has that in the back of his mind, but he has made himself a laughing stock. He has made himself a laughing stock. People are making jest of him for not realizing that this presidency, as you said, the nation has agreed that it should be swinging back and forth between the two main regions, North and South. North and South is the single most prominent thing that we have agreed without a fight.
That is why I think that, so this idea of rotational presidency, which is a national consensus, should become constitutional. It's the only way to safeguard it. I mean, any attempt to try to draw the hand of the clock, I can tell you, for instance, you know, in 2023, in the run-up to 2023, you know, some folks went to the president and said, look, Northeast has never been the president. So they supported.
So guys, you have seen it for yourself. You have seen what people are saying, because guess what? If there was a country in Nigeria, people would not be, you know, this reluctant about returning home. But many people are so worried. Think about the insecurity. Think about, some people will tell you once they land in the airport, their blood pressure will just spike. Because you don't even know what becomes of you the next moment. When you look at the level of insecurity and even the way you'll be welcomed, things happening around you, you are worried, you are afraid, you are scared, and all that. That is why many Nigerians prefer to continue living in fear than returning to their home country. But this is not supposed to be for a country like ours. Nigeria, a blessed country, a blessed home. But see how people are living. Because of fear. You don't know what becomes of you because of Trump. People are scared. People are worried. People don't want to be caught up. In short, some people are like, what will my future be like if I should return back to Nigeria? And that is why people are not thinking that option. That is a very good option. Let me know what you think about this in the comment section below. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Turn on the notification bell. Please give this video a like so that YouTube can recommend it to others. And drop your thoughts in the comment section below. Thank you.